We should introduce ourselves. I'm Pat Brainerd. I'm with the Forward Three Lakes Design Wisconsin group, and we're looking for input from the town government today to help Design Wisconsin formulate some information that could help plan whatever Three Lakes may need in the future. And now we'll go to Jeff.
I am Jeff Bruss, Town Chairman, Three Lakes, joining by invitation from Pat and the group.
I am Sue Harris, Town Clerk with the Town of Three Lakes. I am joining verbally, I guess, from Pat Brainerd. I do not have a speaker on my computer, or microphone, sorry.
What do you two consider the responsibilities of the town government? And how would that differ from, say, the county?
I can go first. I guess my responsibility is to administer elections and to make sure that we conduct proper property assessments, that we ensure safety with our police and our fire and our ambulance. We maintain our roads and our parks, but basically that we provide a common sense of leadership without politics.
I would add to Sue's the day-to-day operations of the town. She's doing a lot more than she's saying. As far as the chair goes, I would say that it would be more of an oversight of things as they come up. A general leadership of the town as much as it's called upon, but without becoming a meddler. The clerk is on the ball and showing us what needs to be done, and then leading us as far as what she believes is the proper way, or putting us in contact with the proper people, whether it's the town attorney or the right committee at the town level or the right committee at the county level. And then you said what differs between us and the county, and unfortunately in Three Lakes, the county still has the majority of the decision-making process on their end, especially when it comes to property rights like zoning, conditional uses, because that all falls under zoning. So even like one of the questions was, what is the future of Three Lakes? If you start to talk about hotels or land use and things like that, that still all, in my opinion, falls ultimately back to the county, because they have the final say. And the clerk may or may not agree with that, but.
No, I agree, especially in regards to zoning.
Yeah.
I think that was something I felt would be good to include in this, that the county has a lot of say in what actually goes on in Three Lakes and all the other communities in our county. And that can differ from county to county. And when we have these volunteers coming from Design Wisconsin, they are probably running into quite a few differences no matter where they've been. So the second thing he has on here, which was in brief, is resources. And I'm not quite sure, the resources mean like our water resources, or do our resources mean where we're getting our money? I think kind of go where you feel comfortable in answering that question.
Go ahead, Sue.
Well, I'll take it first. I took resources to be our town employer, our town employees.
Okay.
Area groups and organizations, committees, commissions, volunteers. Those are all our resources that we need above and beyond. So that's how I took resources. But I know what you mean, Pat, with our water, our chain of 28 lakes attracts tourism, and that's one of our major resources. But I went the other way with volunteers and employees and groups and organizations.
Well, I mean, and I like you going that way. I know we've worked hard in other times to try to come up with volunteers and stuff, which is sometimes difficult. And I just don't know if we don't, once again, it's time. How much time does anybody have to actually do it? So how would you identify that, Jeff?
I thought the same thing Sue did. I took resources to mean people. The thing, and this has been discussed numerous times, is over and over again, the same resources, the same people are always the ones stepping forward. And I know people are getting burned out on that. And I think that's part of the issue, is when the same core group of people are always the ones stepping up, people get burned out. So I think that resources are something that we need to work on as far as recruiting new ones.
Mm-hmm.
How you do that, I don't know. With a lot of the younger people, kids occupy their time, and that's difficult, which I totally understand. So you start to look to these people who have either older children or children that are gone, or empty nesters or retirees, and again, it just all comes down to the same core group of people spending time doing things. And I think that we need to recruit new resources, and how you do that, I don't know.
One of the things that I suggested to the school was that their volunteer hours that these students have to do in order to graduate should be done on a local level. They should have to volunteer their time to the fire department, the fish and wildlife, the water fund, a group or a committee in Three Lakes, not necessarily their grandmother's nursing home, or not necessarily raking leaves at a neighbor, but back in the community.
They do that at Northland Pines, Sue. I don't know if you know that or not, but the kids do have to go work Cranberry Fest. They have to go work pond hockey. They have to go work events more so than like you're describing.
Same thing, though, same concept.
That's the expectation, is that they have to work those types of things versus basically exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, I think the school, and that's something I mentioned to the school a few years back, changing their policy regarding those volunteer hours for graduation.
I think that's a great idea.
As far as resources go too, maybe it's just a matter of using the school as a better resource, teaming up with them to,
Right.
so it's more of a collective town, school districts, because
Okay, so now let's go to authority. I'm assuming that some of this would have to do with, we have the town government being you on the upper level, and then we have the committees underneath. So what authorities do the different committees and stuff have as well as yourselves?
Well, the authorities, our town board is governed under, chapter 60 with the towns. So they have to follow, what the statutes say, basically. I looked at it as though our authorities were as our town chairman, our town board of supervisors, our police chief, our fire chief. They didn't really go into the roles per se.
Well, I'll just use the example that came up today, Sue, where we had somebody asking about creating another committee, and I pointed out that one technically exists already. We already have a cultural and natural resource committee. And as Sue pointed out, a lot of people don't realize, but by statute, a lot of things have to go through a committee first, especially the Plan Commission. And by statute, the Airport Commission is self-governing. So there's a lot of committees that have a lot more power to do things. Whether they do or don't is up to them. But there's a lot more committees that have a lot more power than people realize. And I don't mean power in a bad sense, but you could reach out to a committee, a park commission. I should say commission versus committee. The Airport Commission, Plan Commission, the Park Commission, the commissions have a lot more power to do things on their own. That said, the committees also have the ability to suggest, discuss, plan, and then suggest to the said commissions to work things through. But most of those commissions have the power to do things all on their own without even discussing it at a town board level. The only thing they need to ask for is budget.
And the authority then of the town board and the supervisors is just to oversee all of them, all of it, and budget. It's mainly the budget and where that money can go.
Budget approval, ordinances.
Yeah, operation and functions of the town.
So in some ways, the next question that we had from John was, how does the town government work? And I think we've somewhat gone through that, right?
Yeah, you basically go from committee to commission to town board. Okay.
Next, what are the successes in recent memory? Would you identify as successes?
No, they're numerous in my opinion. Sue's most recent one, and I totally forgot about it until Brian Slizuski pointed it out at the last meeting, is, there's just everyday successes around town. Sue had a whole bunch of money reimbursed to the town through a COVID relief fund for all the overtime they spent during the voting season last time. The grant money we've gotten for milfoil, I feel like there's dozens every year, honestly. A lot of them are grants, but a lot of them are just, simple little things that people forget about.
Yeah, and I would kind of agree with that. Little things like a bird city destination or a dog park versus the obvious of a brand new town hall or a brand new library.
Right.
The little things like a cemetery wall that's beautiful versus a green hedge. Those are the little things that when I drive into town, I look at the cemetery wall and I think, wow, that's really, really a nice little addition to our community.
Or even that new sign. I think everybody forgets about all the little things. They want us to say we built a new building or library, like Sue pointed out.
Right.
She's 100% right. But there's little victories that happen every week.
And our gateway sign, the fact that it says Three Lakes welcomes you, I love that it says that and not welcome to Three Lakes. It stands out. It's a little different. And I think that sign is another small victory too.
Okay, so as you say, so look for the little things. And I think that's one of the things with the Forward Three Lakes too, is that all the things that they would suggest doesn't mean that they're going to do these huge things. They may come up with little things, and which are things that could be accomplished now. And
I would prefer we do. To me, it's like you look at the little things that make a big difference. Improvements to the boat landings, which we've done a bunch of. Improvements to our roads, which we've done a bunch of. Trails, the park system, which if you drive through our parks, this year was an ugly year for anybody being able to enjoy stuff like that because we didn't have as many events there as we normally do. But our parks are beautiful and well maintained. And those are all things that people just take for granted now and don't stop to say like, wow, what if? What if we didn't do things, or what if they weren't maintained like we have been? And again, Sue's been working on grant money to improve the parks for bathrooms and gathering rooms. So I mean, those, I would prefer we, instead of saying we need a new hotel or we need a new, whatever it is, I would prefer we start to concentrate on a dozen little things versus one big thing.
Where do you consider most of your ideas come from?
Well, if we're going to follow up on the last conversation in reference to like the gateway sign, it came from, the Three Lakes Community Foundation talking with the town and the Plan Commission about partnering up on a sign. Some of these bigger ideas have come from, like I'll use Don Sadowski as an example with broadband and perhaps the Fab Lab. Those aren't items that we talked about previously, or Carl Marty with the Northern Air. I mean, there's lots of names that have affected our community with ideas that they've brought. But the little things are harder to say who, did the pickleball group bring up a particular idea to our park commission to do some improvements in our parks? Yes. So I have a hard time answering that a little bit.
I think my opinion is most of the ideas come from private citizens who have a desire to, Tom Ralsey with a bike trail, Lionel Cliss and a group of people with a dog park. I think it ends up someone's idea, a bunch of people jump on board and they solicit help from individual groups and or the town. Again, when Lionel came with that dog park, again, a lot of us kind of laughed it off, including Sue and I probably. And again, I'm just so blown away by what that turned into. And the use it gets, I always thought, when we live up here, you kick your dog out the door and, you let him go, nobody cares. But it isn't that, so it's like a lot of times I think we need to keep an open mind on the ideas that other people bring to us, because sometimes I'm guilty. I can't speak on Sue's behalf, but I was guilty on that particular one for sure of just thinking, I don't know what Lionel's thinking, but I was wrong.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there are things like that I think that most of the time I would say private citizens are bringing up and spearheading and pushing until they get their, until they get what they want, in a good way.
So in what ways do you think Three Lakes has potential?
Oh, gosh.
Where do you think our potential lies in what we could do to increase its potential?
Well, I've always said I think a tech school is a good section for us to, I think having a tech school, having some of these kids get out with a trade in order to get back into the trades, which are a dying breed. I think partnering with our U.S. Forest Service, if they would allow for us to open up some of our natural forests for snowshoeing and sledding and outdoor activities, those are some of the things that I see for future potential in promoting our natural resources.
I agree on that. For on the technical one for sure. Especially with the labor shortage, to me, we're supposed to be talking about, the positives of the future of Three Lakes. One of the biggest negatives for any business right now, even with the highest unemployment we've seen in several years, is still getting people to work, especially in those trade positions like Sue's talking about. I'll also use an example. I mean, we met with the national, I think you said it in that meeting, Sue, a couple years ago when I asked them to open up Sheltered Valley for a mountain bike trail, and they told me no.
Yeah.
And that was through the forestry department?
Yeah, they said they wouldn't do it. And they had a laundry list of reasons, but you're at their mercy, just like we're at the county's mercy or the state's mercy. So there are only so much we can do. But the future of Three Lakes, again, I prefer we take it in small chunks, rather than everyone, always looking for a new library or a new town office or a new hotel or a new restaurant. I prefer we take it in small chunks.
Do you have anything else that you feel would be good to share?
One of the things that I think opened up a lot of the potential in Three Lakes is that whole weekly rental thing opening up. Where we knew we had a shortage of short stay because the resorts had closed. We've probably, I know we just got a number on this for the annual meeting, but we had approved like 20 in the last year and a half. Does that sound right?
Easily.
So in my opinion, that gave another, call it 20 or 30 places where someone can come up for 1 week and get the taste of Three Lakes and decide like, hey, is this a place where I'd like to spend more time? And I think that that's important in the long run. I think it's opening up more people to Three Lakes than in the past because they couldn't find a place to stay.